Our canvas is sewn for our Dodger now, so now what we want to do is we want to mount it to our Dodger frame. And before I do that, this is the front edge of the Dodger, and I want to find the center of the front. Given that we put some tabs here, we can just measure between these extensions and find the center. We've got 31 inches in between, which means we're going to have 15.5 inches to the center. Just make sure I've got that right. Yep, that looks just right. So that's going to be where our center snap is going to be positioned at the front, assuming we do snaps. And we're going to talk about that here in a little bit, but I like to have the center marked at any rate. Now, I've got this laid out roughly where it goes. We're going to pass it up to Deb so it goes over the frame. We'll start with the front bow, and I'm going to put my starting pin into the box of the slider and start zipping that on. Okay, now we need to attach to the back framing, and here we have two zippers. Okay, and this side. And we are good. Now, from here what we want to do is we want to go ahead and we have already sewn our straps to hold the frame back, and we're going to go ahead and show you how to attach those. All right, so now we look at the back of the framing, and we have our access point here for our strap. I'm going to hold my strap like so that the tab is facing back, and then let's take the free end of the strap, pass it behind the tubing. Be a little tricky because the hole's a little tight here, and get it out. Now we're going to pass it through, got to hold that the right way, the loop, and cinch it tight, and we have to pull all of this through here. Okay, can be a little tricky to get it through there, but you just have to work it until it comes through. And you see that almost gives you what looks like a bow tie effect. That's why we have the twist in the webbing before it goes through. And there's our release for loosening the strap. And then for tightening the strap, we have this strap on the outside of the primary webbing. This will come back, our leg will come back, and we're going to attach for now something. We don't have any eye straps on. We're going to put those on later. So we just want it loose for now. And we're going to do that on the other side as well. I want to mention that you'll notice that the hatch is now in the closed position, and you'll notice we have drawn another line by folding the frame down onto the hatch that matches up with the other lines that were drawn off of the edges of the hatch. This hatch maintains essentially the same height from the front to the back, whether it's open or closed. We have decided we want permanent fasteners at the front of the hatch, and we may do something in the way of Velcro at the back of the hatch. Haven't decided that yet. But what the step we did not show here was when we folded this down and we drew this line. If we look at the back of the hatch, there's still a line back there that we drew when we were doing the original patterning. Okay, we have the Dodger just very loosely in position now. We have our center mark for the front, and what we're going to do is we're going to start by connecting the front edge, and then we're going to work down the sides. But before we do that, just a little bit of housekeeping to do here. We've made our center mark. Now we want to find the center mark of the hatch, and we're going to start there with our snaps or fasteners, and then we're going to work our way out and around. So we're going to measure from rail to rail here, and we have 35.5, so 17 3/4 would be the halfway point. Mark that, and then we're going to check it from the opposite direction. All right, you can see we still have our lines marked on the deck, and remember when we did our patterning that we didn't mark the pattern right over the line. We marked it about 1/2 inch outside the line, and then when we took our patterns off and put them on the loft floor, we marked our cut lines an additional 1/2 inch outside of that. What that really means is that this edge, our finished edge, should end roughly 1/2 inch outside of the marked line, which works out properly because if we put our fasteners right through the yellow line, that means we're going to want them in the fabric roughly a ½ inch back from the finished edge, which is just perfect. So keep that in mind as we start to install the fasteners. All right, we're to the point where we're going to put fasteners in the boat and show you how to bed those properly. Sailrite standard kits come with normal dot durable line 24 snap fasteners. Line 24 is the standard marine grade size, and they come with the nickel plated brass fasteners, which are the most common. If you wanted something different like the stainless steel or an alternate type of fastener, you have to order those separately. Remember, Dodgers can be done in any number of ways. This is just meant to be a guide for you to show you roughly how it's done. And if you want to work outside of those guidelines, feel free to alter the design or pattern in ways that you see fit. This fastener is a number 8 screw and wood screw. And first thing you want to do with this fastener is determine what size drill bit that you need. And what we are using here is a 7/64 inch drill bit. And what you want to do for drill bits when you're putting holes in fiberglass or even wood for that matter is you want the drill bit size to match the size of the screw stud minus the cutting threads. Line it up and sight through it and see that the threads are peeking out and I'm covering the entire post apart from the threads. If we go too big, the screw won't hold well enough. If we go too small with the drill bit, then there's a chance of cracking or damaging the fiberglass. So 11/64 is right for the standard snaps. Now, if we wanted to use an alternate, this is one of the alternates that I recommend for larger Dodgers. This is Dot's new Pull It Up fastener, and it's still a very nice low profile. As you can see, when it would be installed in the boat, it's only going to stand up that high. It does use a number 10 screw, so you have to go to a larger drill bit. In this case, we have picked a 9/64 as the appropriate size, following the same rule. I brought the top here so you can see how this works. The nice thing about this fastener is when you snap it down, it will not come free if the pole is in line or in shear, and unless you pull the button top up, which is what it takes to release this fastener. So a slick fastener, they're expensive. You can see I can pop the button top is spring loaded, pop it up. Okay, nice fastener, but they're expensive. However, if you've got a lot of pressure on the front of a Dodger, you may want to buy some of these in addition to what comes standard with the kit. All right, so we're ready to put the first fastener in. From our previous discussion, we know that the snap should be positioned a ½ inch from the finished edge. So I'm going to mark that position. And now, if I was taking the canvas off and taking it back to the floor, I could use the traditional little cheap hammer tool to put the snap in. However, that's one of the reasons we recommend that you consider getting these press and snap tools. You don't have to take your canvas off. You can do it right on the boat. So I'm going to load my tool. If you want to see how this tool is used, just go to the website and search on press and snap tool and watch the video. And now I'm going to, this will cut the hole and everything. I'll make sure that the button side is to the top. I'm going to position it right over my marking. And squeeze the trigger. And there is our first button in the canvas. Now we need to put our first fastener in our deck. Now you want to know what's underneath before you proceed. We've already looked under our hatch, and this is just a single layer of fiberglass, so we can't go too deep. However, we know that our wood trim on top here is deep enough that we're really not going to cause any problems in the glass. In the rest of the boat, we have a false layer of glass underneath, so depth isn't too big of a concern as long as we don't drill all the way through. But here, I want to make sure, and I like to put, I don't have any masking tape here, but I think it's a good idea to put a piece of masking tape over wrap it around your drill bit so that you know that you're not going too deep. In this case, I'm just going to be careful. And we're going to line it up on our line. I can start to see a little bit of glass come up, so I know that I've gotten through the wood there. And now we need to bed this fastener to put it in. All right, to bed our fasteners, all we're going to use is 3M's marine grade mildew resistant silicone. And we're not using an adhesive here because if we ever need to remove and replace the fasteners, we don't want to cause damage to the deck. So all we're really concerned about here is sealing the holes. And the way we do that, and this is a tube that we've already used. When you've got a tube you've already used, it's a good idea to take a rag or something and just get some of the old stuff out. There we go. And now we just want to put a dab right over the hole. Just need enough there that it will suck it down into the screw hole. And place our fastener. Use a good quality Phillips screwdriver for these. And we're going to thread it in place. You want to get them snug, not so tight that you strip things out. And that is the first and hardest hole to put in your boat. From there on, it's all academic. We're going to continue installing our fasteners, and we're going to go every 6 inches. The best way to do this is to install the fasteners in the deck first, and then we're going to show how to mark the canvas to find those locations. I'm going every 6 inches here, but I'm starting at 2. So I can get the tape flat. Okay, we're going to work from this position now, so we're going to go back and snap our center. And now what I want to do is I want to pull tight across the side, and I'm going to mark the snap position just by lifting the edge. Sometimes you can do this too, but this is pretty thick tabling, so we can't really get through it to find the center. So I'm just going to lift the edge and mark, and my center's about right there. And now we want to measure the 1/2 inch. And my snap's going to go right there, right at the back. And let's put a snap in. And I want it under pressure when I'm pulling it, so you can see I've got this nice and tight. And now we will just continue down each side until we get to the glass. Yeah, we have our snaps and our hatch now. Now we're going to tighten up the straps on the back and get a little tension on the frame. Good. Good. Now we don't want to go crazy with the tension, and the tension's not going to pull everything out at this point because we're still not pulling the canvas down on the sides. But as you can see, things are starting to look smoother. So now we'll continue to work around the front. Next spot we're going to go is right in the wood rail here. And not going to go too deep with that. We're going to do this on both sides. in retrospect, we might have wanted a little bit more thickness here, but you'll notice on the back side our flap actually goes well beyond the stitch line, so we'll be all right. Okay, we put a little bit more tension on our frame just so we can make sure that things are gonna be smooth when we continue with the snaps. I'm going to ignore this area here because our original pattern, we added this ear section to it and this ear section. I know that we didn't add anything back in this area, and as a result, I'm gonna put the next fastener right here, and then we'll deal with this area later. So what we wanna do is roughly determine where we want it. And I see our notches maybe could have been a little bit bigger here too as well for where the line comes through. But I want to snap roughly right here. So I'm going to mark my deck. Now we're in the first one in the fiberglass. And what we want to do here is not drill too deeply. And I'm going to drill perpendicular to the surface as well. Again, this is a good spot for your tape, but it'll pull it. Let's compare that to our screw stud. We're plenty deep. Okay, and we'll just put a dab of the silicone over the hole. And in we go. Good. Now we're going to mark our canvas, and I'm going to pull this really tight because I want to get a good tight fit all along here. So I'm going to pull tight, and actually sometimes instead of going right on center, I will actually mark a little bit to my right in order to make sure that I get good tension on it. Okay, and then we need to go a ½ inch in. There we go. Nice tightness there. Now we're going to do the same thing, continuing just down and around the side here on roughly 6-inch intervals. I have my marks. This one I want to be careful about getting too low with it. And actually, I don't think I'm going to drill. I'm going to drill them one at a time. What we're going to find is that this is going to probably change a little bit here. Remember, this line was harder to draw straight up and down off of the framing, so it might actually be lower than what we want. And I think what I'm going to do is put this fastener in, then go to the other side and get the first two on the other side. Okay, let's re-snap here. And then get good pressure on it here and mark that one. Okay, on the opposite side, on the port side of the boat, we don't have the lines coming through, so we need to figure out where this snap is, because I'd like to have the snaps be somewhat symmetrical on the boat. So I'm just going to measure from this rail up, and you can see that roughly 8 inches is where we are. So we'll go to the opposite side now and we'll transfer that measurement. Okay, so we're just going to come to our rail, bend our tape, and this isn't super critical, but there's my mark. So that's where my first fastener is going to go. I'm going to check my non-slip area here on this boat and make sure this gap looks roughly the same as it does on the other side as a secondary check, and it looks good. So I'm happy with that position. So here, it's time to drill again. Okay, now we go back to our 6-inch measurements and continue down. So let's see, 6 inches, another 6 is going to get me there. And you'll be able to tell at this point that there are definitely some differences in the height of this trim strip, but it's not going to cause us any problems. Okay, Jim is pulling aft at the back here so we can get the side nice and tight. At this point, we'll really not pay that much attention to our lines that are drawn on the boat. Instead, we're going to come to our 6-inch mark here, and I'm going to pull it down to get it nice and tight through here, and I'm going to mark a new line at the bottom here so that we can see, well, look, our line's going to be in about the right spot. We want it about a 1/2 inch above, so in this case, fastener should still go right where we had it there. So Jim, you can let loose. But we're going to check ourselves all the way through here. And now we go in. Okay, that one's in. Now we do the same thing. Jim's pulling aft. I got to find my mark for 6 inches. It's right about there. I'm going to pull this in, mark there. Aha, this one, notice, now you can go ahead and let go, Jim. I want to probably go up a little bit with my fastener. I'm going to go right in here, roughly a 1/2 inch up. Look how nice that's looking. That's great. Now, let's go to the other side before we come back here, because back here we got to figure out what we're doing with our tails. Well, let's put one more in. I think we're good with one more. We're back over to the starboard side, and we're going to do the same thing we did on the port side. Jim's going to apply some pressure back after I get this next snap in here. So first thing I want to do is tension this down, strike my line there. As we were on the other side, we're still a 1/2 inch up, so that's going to be a good drill position. Okay, go ahead and let go, Jim. I've got this one. Jim, I need you to pull back now, and I'm going to mark the fastener position. Okay, good, you can ease it. Gotta love this tool. If you didn't have one of these tools, which the kit does not come with one, you would need to mark positions, take the thing, and I would probably mark maybe 3 at a time. Obviously get your center one on first, but mark three or more at a time, and then take it off the boat. You'd have to put those in, bring it back, attach it, continue. So it is possible. It's just a whole lot more on and off. We just pulled this down and got a line on the bottom edge. Go ahead, Jim, do it again. About right there. So if we lift up, I've got my 1/2 inch clearance, so that's where I want to put my snap, right where we had anticipated. Got her held?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. 1/2 inch. Getting to the point where I can pretty much eyeball that. Okay, Jim. Ooh, pull that back, would you, Jim?
Yeah.
You want the fasteners to be tight. That's good and tight. Okay, now we have one more possibly to go in here. And actually, yeah, I think we will put that one more in there. I think we did on the other side, didn't we? So we need to go 6 inches. All right, we've got the Dodger in place. We've got all of our fasteners around the front edge. And now what we want to do is tighten up our back straps. Now this is a very small boat. You can see we've got our straps running back to the stern rails. And I think we're probably going to leave it that way on this boat. The alternative would be to bring them down to the coaming somewhere and put a strap eye that we attach to. If we were going to do that, the strap eyes are included in the kit, and you would bed them very much the same way that we did the snaps. However, it would be better if you're going to have that kind of tension on it to actually through bolt those and put a nut on the back side. So, but we're gonna leave ours to the rails, and Jim and I are going to go ahead and start tensioning this up. There are a number of ways that we can handle the key snap here, and you notice our key snap is in line with the back bow. So we want to pretty much come straight down with our pressure along this edge, but we still want to keep it taut here. And what I want is I want a snap that's in the material about right there. So what we're going to do is pull that down, bend this up, and get our snap position roughly. There we go. Okay. Good. Nice and tight. Okay. If we need more, we could always put one here, but I don't think it's necessary at this point. So I'm going to call that complete on this side, and we'll go to the port side. Okay, obviously we have to allow for opening the hatch. So we've unsnapped the snaps on the hatch, and Jim, go ahead and slide the hatch open. And you can see if he gets it slid far enough, there's our original pattern spots or lines. So now what we're going to do is we're going to come back here. We may not be able to put the ones here, but we can certainly get the 3 in the center. And we'll come and attach 3 snaps there so that when it's open, we still have our Dodger connected. And these primary snaps are holding a lot of pressure on the Dodger. It might be a good idea at some point to put something that's a little bit more secure than a snap there, but that's something that could easily be changed. If you didn't want to snap in the hatch in 2 different spots at the front and the back, you could also sew Velcro, which we include in the kit, to the underside of the canvas and adhere a Velcro strip to the back of the hatch. So there are numerous ways to do that. I spend too much time sitting at my desk answering your emails and telephone calls and not enough time outside on the boat. As a result, I'm really tired after putting all those snaps in. I think after doing that, I would say that we probably want to be a little bit closer than 6 inches apart. I think even 3 inches apart on the snaps is going to give you a better looking fit. You get too much of a gap between the snaps, you get a little bit of a flat line. It's sort of like drawing a circle. If you draw a circle with more segments, everything is smoother. If segments get too long, it looks like a series of straight lines. But nonetheless, we ended up with a very nice, tight-fitting Dodger, and it fits well. We've got a nice gap here for our traveler line to run, and we'll show that later on in the video when everything is said and complete, so you can see that the boom will still swing. However, while we were thinking about, oh, it would be nice not to put any more holes in the boat, obviously both of our straps off of the Bimini and the Dodger are going to get in the way of the Traveler when we're broad reaching or running. So we are going to have to come up with an alternate way of applying tension to the forward side of the Bimini and the aft side of the Dodger. And instead of showing you how we're going to do that, we're going to do it, and then we'll show you in the video what we ultimately ended up doing. Everything else in the way of the instructions to do it is academic. It's just a matter of installing the strap eyes. I think we might want to come back through and put some additional snaps in where we had the larger gaps in order to close some of the holes at the front of the Dodger. And otherwise, I'm very pleased with where we are now. The final stage of this is going to be, if we have any material left, sunbrella left from the kit, we may want to pattern and bring some side curtains down, and we'll briefly show that as well. So for now, I leave you today, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.